I'm sure you guys have heard auto layouts before. Some of you guys have not, because this is your first design rodeo, product design. And I will explain what auto layouts are and all that, right? As opposed to the traditional method of just designing boxes and arranging them by dragging them here, there, and there. Auto layout allows you to set certain standards and restrictions. And then you can just automatically just add new things and just pops in there. You can make things resize automatically depending on what width you want it to be. And that's one of the things that I think product designers have needed to do lately. Understand? Sometimes an app just has one feature, but then the CEO and the business team starts thinking we need to add a new feature. You don't want to start dragging things and then finding new ways to put things or slide new things in there. Auto layout is just Control D. It pops in there, and then you can just change text, change color, change the icon, and you are done. So that's why today is very important. Also, we'll talk about components. Components is just reusable things. All right, so let's fire on. Let me find your file. Free Masterclass 2025. Awesome. Today, we want to talk about components. What's the other thing I mentioned on the list again? I think components, auto layouts, the components, variants, and auto layout. Yes, components, variants, and auto layout. So I'll create a new page. I'll just say main. Now, in your Figma file, you can actually have multiple pages. So if you look at the left side here, pages, if you click on plus, you can add a new page, and then I'll just say components, variants, and auto layout. Now, with the auto layout, we just touch the tip of the auto layout. But by tomorrow, we'll now get into auto layout properly. And then we'll now talk about the responsive side of auto layout. And when I say responsive means websites that look good both on mobile and web, but without you having to design it twice. All you just have to do is just shrink down your frame to like mobile size, and then it will look like a mobile phone thing. So that is what I'll be teaching you guys. These are like some advanced techniques. I think some of the people that work with me personally, they know I'm very, very strict on my auto layout. Very, very strict on auto layout because it's a very, very important prerequisite to know how to do in today's design industry. If you really want to prove yourself in an office, if you really want to be, should I say, that person that they look up to, they know that if I give this person something, they'll make it happen really fast. Auto layout is one of the quickest way to get to that point. So funny enough, a lot of people know how to use auto layout, but then there's a level of auto layout usage that every single thing you do is auto layout driven. Funny enough, the senior product designer, even though I'm a senior product designer at the company as well, for my new job, uses auto layout, but not the way we use auto layout. At least maybe some people that work with me here, they use it, but not exactly the way that I use auto layout. So when I was doing some things that surprised, like, oh wow, you can do that. Well, how do you do that? I'm like, it's this shortcut, it's that, set this, set that. And then so again, you should be the person that they are asking, oh, how did you do that so fast? And then you can show them. And then they learn from you as well. And they respect you a little bit more as well if they can learn from you. Okay, so components. What are components? Let me come in and let me type in texts. Component. And I think maybe it's my obsession with this product design thing that has made me into somebody who knows almost everything about Figma and product design. Because I don't think there's any day that I don't do something. I don't think ever since I started my career, and again, this is something just to encourage you guys. I don't think ever since I started my career, I don't think I've ever just had one project on my hands. I've always had 2 or 3 plus, always maximum. Currently, I think I have about 5 or 6 projects on my hand currently. With the new job, makes it like 7. So one of the things I know, and one of those things is, the way I see it is, if you take on new things, even though you don't have the time, but you can make time for it. Instead of watching Netflix, maybe I can do this. One project I did for money, launched the app finally, right, on Thursday. And I was so happy about it. Yes, and now that's another thing on my portfolio. Live app is on my portfolio again. So if I'm looking for a job that pays beyond this, maybe starting to pay almost £150,000 annually or £200,000 annually, you understand? I can easily just say, I did this one and the app is there, that one is there, you understand? Again, this is just quick advice for you guys. We are taking on projects on the side. First one, you have to understand the credentials of the person you want to work with. And pretty much, does the person have any track record of making anything before, either with a company or on their own? If they've done things before that failed, it's good. That I actually see that as a good sign. Trying and failing is a very, very good sign to me. I think 9 out of 10 times, I would love to try and fail, right? Eventually, one day I would succeed, right? But as long as somebody is trying continuously, that's a very good sign. Also, you also need to look at the person and see who are the other members of the team. Always ask them, do they have marketing people? If you are the CEO of your own company, what do you know about business? If you have, the only reason why I work with somebody who is a CEO of the business is if the person probably has a business background or an MBA type thing. Fine, I know they will put effort into marketing this thing. I will do my technical part of designing it. There will be a developer to code it, but somebody will market it, because projects that I've built in the past, and trust me, I've built a lot, them that I've designed, they will code them. Nobody will market it, and then they will expect the product to just one day people will just start finding it on Google search, and then they will just start making billions of dollars. It doesn't work that way. You must have a team. You must not be the CEO of your business if you have no fucking business background. I always say that even my own startups, I'm not the CEO of my business. My CEO is on this call of one of my businesses. You understand? So it's very important to be able to understand that everybody, you have your skills, you have your strong suits. Because you founded something doesn't mean you have to lead it. You understand? So you have to look at the people you're working with. Otherwise, they'll end up wasting your time. But again, that time wasted as well is like practice time for you. You practice design, took feedback, changed things, went back to redo things multiple times to suit somebody's needs. That is how you actually get better at, and also get less frustrated, because trust me, people will frustrate you with feedback. But let's talk about components. So let me go into, okay, this is okay, no, I can't share that. Let me go back here. Let me first close these ones. Let me close them, because there's a reason why I can't go into that. They have NDAs, they have lawyers, there's legal documentation. It's for a company in the US. So I would not be able to show that one. But I'm definitely going to go into a file here called, you guys already know Pay For Me. So I'll just go into the Pay For Me design system. And I'll use this as a teaching point for you guys. Now, funny enough, this was something that is a project I've worked on for 4 years. I've been working with components and variants, but never really assembled a full library of where all the information on how we use fonts, colors, where we use it, and all of that stuff was, right? And then I did a challenge. I said, oh, whoever it is, I'll have the person as my assistant, and I'll be paying them 250K every month, right? And one of my students actually, I will not mention names, but I'll mention his name, Toby, pretty much should have actually taken that challenge on, but he did not take it seriously. So she won, and she did an amazing job with me. So a student pretty much worked with me and then created an entire library of assets. With the skills that she has right now, I can definitely vouch for her anywhere. If there are any jobs, I will always mention her first, because she works with me every single day. She's worked with me for almost 5 months now. So imagine 250K every month for 5 months just to be assisting me on projects. So again, it could be nice to at least bring one of you guys on a project eventually. It might be paid, it might not be paid, but definitely I always like to be fair to everybody. So most likely it will be paid. But let's look at all those font things that we spoke about. See, this is the font system for Pay For Me. This is the entire font library of Pay For Me. Everything is attached to its own style. This is the entire information on that. This is for the website. This is the entire hierarchy of font usage. Colors, this is the entire color system. Neutral colors, all the blacks, the yellows, the errors, all the colors we could use. Brand patterns. Again, this kind of like from the graphic design team, they provided this for us, because sometimes we want to have things in the background just show up in a subtle way. So there's different teams for different things, right? Now, let me come into the interesting part, really, which is here. This light UI stuff. And let me allow that load up. This is every single component we've ever created or Pay For Me, we've used or we've stopped using or whatever it is. And everything was pretty much done in just 1 month. Now, when I say components means things that we use and we reuse and reuse and reuse in multiple different places. Can anybody give me an example of a component in UI design? What do you think a component is? What is that thing that we can reuse in multiple pages over and over again? Buttons. Buttons is a very, very good example. Now watch. Component. This is what we call components. This is the main button. This is the copy me button. But this button now has, and that's why the topic of today is components and variants. This button now has different variations of that same button. So this is the button itself, but then inside of it, we now have the variants down here. We have the default button, which is standardly like this. If the button needs an icon, then the icon can be on the left or on the right, and everything is labeled properly. But this for desktop. On desktop, if we hover on top of the button, it should look like this when our mouse is on top of it. Currently, I'm not prototyping it, so we are showing the states of the button. I'm sure you guys have gone to some websites where if you put your mouse on top of the button, it changes the color slightly, or maybe majorly it changes to like black or yellow or something like that. That's what we call the hover state. Now, we now need to have something called a pressed state, meaning after you've clicked the button, for a brief few seconds, it will change to this color, right? While the next page is loading for it to go into that next page. So you label every single thing. And all of this is just for us at Pay For Me. We like to, or I created the standard anyway. I like to just make sure everything is all by size. So this size 48. And these are the 48 sizes. But then these are now 40. It's smaller than 48. You understand? And then this 32, which is a smaller button. So it could fit into different areas. Then we now have something called the peel button. So these are components, but because all of them are different versions of each other, they are variations of the same button. Now, when it comes to button, you must always have a primary button and a secondary button. Primary buttons typically are buttons that are filled with color. It could be a rounded button, it could be a straight edge button, whatever. Primary buttons typically have colors in their background. It could be black color, it could be a bright color, whatever it is. The background of that button would always have a color. It could be white, it could be black. But secondary buttons usually blend into the background of where they are placed on and would always have a stroke around it. So please note that in your head. Primary buttons, you must never use two primary buttons next to each other in any design. It's a standard. So I'll give that course. I might make it 10 people if I'm feeling happy then. And again, depending on if my pockets are very full. So the point is this. If you have to have two buttons, not on the same page, but in the same area in a page, you will do it primary first, secondary second. You will not do two primary buttons next to each other. It's not something you should ever do. You should try as much as possible to avoid that. Now, if your boss is saying, I want it that way, do it for him. Maybe it's for you to collect salary and forget about it. No problem. That's his own problem. So the point is this: follow standards. But then when authority is saying, we want it like this, and that's how we want it, no, give it to them. Understand? Collect your own salary and find side jobs so that when you leave them, understand, nobody can blame you for doing crappy work. So yeah. Secondly, now, we now always have a third layer, which is the tertiary button. Your tertiary buttons will always just be plain buttons with no this thing behind them, with no stroke or color in the background. But typically in Pay For Me app, we typically don't use tertiary buttons. But I'm sure you guys have seen text links before. Those links that will just be like blue with underline to show you that you can click on it. That is what we typically call a tertiary button or a text link. Understand? So the hierarchy goes primary first, and your primary button would always be the most important action you want to exercise. So on a sign up page, your primary button should be the action word sign up. You understand? On a login page, your primary button should be the word login. On a page where maybe you want to see history or book ride or whatever like that, your primary button should be what will bring the company money, which is book a ride. You understand? Like something like Uber. Then your secondary button can now be like, view history or see previous activity or whatever it is. So what will bring the main action of that page should be primary. Secondary should now be the second most important thing. on the list of all the things that you want your users to do. Okay, if you're not interested in doing A, at least they should be able to go back and then maybe they should be able to see B at least, because it's an important thing on that page as well. So you follow hierarchy of importance: primary, secondary, tertiary. If you're having too many buttons in one view, then you are definitely doing something wrong. Always just keep that in your brain. You are definitely doing something wrong if you're actually having way too many buttons on a particular page. You understand? Not everything needs to be a button. Some actions are represented as cards, and we'll get to that as well. So these are what we call components. Buttons are components. There's something called toggle buttons, these switches. These are also components as well. You can see different levels and sizes of them, and types of all of these buttons are all created in here. And they've all been componentized, and the variants are there. So if I need, the way I've set this up, if I make a copy of this guy, and I put it here, if I need to change the size, I'll just come here, just say, okay, I want it to be size medium. It becomes smaller. I want to check it. Maybe I want it to be the community style. Now, this is the community style, but large. And then I can say, I want labels, no labels, yes label. I have set that hierarchy up in a way that is automated. So I don't have to come here manually to grab things. All I have set up here is a system of naming. If I want to use it for right, the right one, arrow pointing right. Use it for the left, arrow pointing left. And I'm done. I'll just change the text, and I'll just reuse this over and over in whatever pages I want it to be. If I want it to be, you can see that. So these are all of the, and then it can be overstate. I can see it's a little bit darker. It can then be disabled. It's going to be very grayish, like it's disabled, you can't use it. You understand? This is pretty much what we call setting up a component and a level of variance. Now, as beginners, you don't need to set up extensive components. One of the best ways I always advise people to set up components is, as you are needing them, you are creating new variants of the same component. You just be creating, so as a need arises for something, you create it and then you add it and you name it properly. That's what we are going to do. So now, just let me show you just some other examples of things. We have buttons, we have checkboxes. You can check this and it will change to either a on or off state, and different styles of that checkboxes. You don't need them. They're only very standard ones that you can always use. Then we have radio buttons as well, where you are selecting one option versus as a second. Checkboxes means you are checking multiple options. Radio buttons means you only pick one or another, one of two or of three or four. You understand? But you only choose one. Now, inputs. Every input will have its own style. The default style of an input will always be here. But then we have this particular version. But we also have the version that has a label on top. So that label just means we can change the text to whatever we want it to be. So if I'm trying to represent maybe you to enter your email, I'll just change this text and I'll just say email. And that's the end. I've used it that way on another page. And this placeholder means it is the placeholder text. I can just come here and just type in username@gmail.com. So the same thing that I did with buttons, I've done here as well. I have the default state of the inputs, focused state, meaning when it's tapped on, it shows green, meaning you are in there. And then that stuff will be blinking. And then you can then enter text. When you filled it, that placeholder will no longer be faint. It's going to be darker because you've entered information inside. Then when there's an error, meaning they've rejected what you've entered, like false password, you can type, it will be red, but then you can also see the message that this is a wrong password or that email does not exist on our database. And then when it succeeds, success message, it was supposed to be green before, but they wanted it to be just plain, because it was going to be clashing with this. So we just left that. And if it's disabled, it's going to be very grayed out. If something is disabled, it should be grayed out, you understand? And that's typically how that works. I don't think we got that right. Yeah, so you see, I just made that change, and that change would have affected everything in my components. So I have the ones with icons, standard text, just icons. I have the ones with icons on the right, icons left and right, something like search, but also you can view. I don't know when that need will come, but we've never had that need yet. The standard text, bigger sizes, and then we keep getting bigger sizes. And then currency style as well for our inputs. We have styles for all of them. And then sliders of the amount. When you want to say, oh, okay, this amount, loan stuff, because we were working on a loan thing. So this is that component. icons on the right for something for like calendars, different styles. We have every single style that we have in Pay for Me. For anything inputs that we're going to enter text into, we have it here. Right now, don't allow this to overwhelm you guys. This is 4 years in the making, so don't think about it too much. I'll teach you the basic stuff, and then you guys will be able to use that to start kicking off your own project as well. So phone inputs as well. Whenever you need to enter phone numbers, it's a different style. It's the same thing as inputs, but Pay for Me takes this a little bit too seriously. It has its own separate side of that. We have things like text areas where you enter like paragraphs. So this is what that looks like. We have drop downs. Whenever I click on it, the way the drop down looks, when I select something, the way it looks, right? All of those things. But we no longer use drop downs in Pay for Me. We now use bottom sheet drawers. In mobile apps, we don't use drop downs inside mobile apps anymore. It's not optimized for users because sometimes the screens are too small. So a bottom sheet drawer that slides from the bottom of your screen to the top and then shows all the menu of that thing is one of the best to actually use. Then chips, when you are filtering something, you can close, you can add, all of that. Everything is all in here. Error messages, success messages. If you are using your mouse to hover on top of an icon, this is what those tool tips will look like. So these are tool tips. Badges, so things that we reuse in multiple places. Is what components are. Any questions so far before I move on? Let me give you guys a second to breathe. I don't want to overload you guys. I'll show you guys how to do it, and then you guys will create your own components right here. So any questions before we go back to that? All right.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm just trying to understand something. So all these things like creating secondary buttons, primary buttons, creating maybe when you want to hover, creating when you click, creating what happens when it's rolling, creating like a designer is going to do all that and you have
We
to show
do,
it.
yes, we do everything. But now, not every company uses systems like this. But because you guys are here to train to be advanced product designers, I'll not teach you the basic just designer. I'll give you guys the basic advanced level stuff. If you now want, depending on the amount they are paying you, if they're paying you up to like $1 million per month, come on, you need to build systems like this. People is paying me about like they're just paying me. So me myself, I'll take the initiative to come in and then break the bank, you understand, and really do quality work because I'm meant to be an advanced professional. I'm not just any product designer. You understand? A principal product designer should be able to do this. And that's like the point. You should be in an entry-level position in any company and you are doing advanced level sheets. That even your senior product designer in the team probably does not even know how to do some of those things. And then you prove to everybody that I don't be your mate. You understand? Stuff like that. That's like my own idea. So that's why we called it zero to master for this free class itself. So you have to bear with me, but learn these things. It's very important. At least if you can do it. If you not choose to do it for each project, it now depends on you. You get. So again, these are dialog boxes. These are dialogues are just what we call pop-ups. So see, secondary button, primary buttons. You understand? You always don't put two of them together in the same box. If there's no button, there's no wala. Now X, go close them. You understand? So we have progress indicators, we have tabs, we have pagination. All of these things just turn into components, different sizes of avatars you might need. And then these are the Pay for Me cards, standard. We have different variants of it. On the Pay for Me app, if you tap on the card, it flips like a card. So this is what the back looks like. But now we even have some new cards that I still have to come and include inside this. I think Toby was the one that designed this. I can remember. We're trying to do like an NFC thing, but I think now Pay for Me is bringing it back. So yeah, unit cards, anything that is like a unit card that's like showing a menu on any page. I created all of them with different styles. So if I need to switch, I just switch. If it's a reward value thing, it's a gift card thing. If it's something about reward types, everything is named appropriately. And also I have some other cards for like something being available or unavailable and all that stuff. You create the grand idea. And then this is kind of like the community feature that we have. But there's so much to show you guys. But trust me, a student like you guys who knew nothing, but worked with me over time, was able to help me arrange and set every single thing. Like last week, when I was in the office here, and Pay for Me was asking for something, I just sent her a message, help me do this, do that, do that, do that. And then she did it exactly the way I would have done it. I was just like, oh yeah, send it. and I sent it to them. I was just communicating through WhatsApp, you understand? And that is like the level of trust that you need anybody to have in you to say, I believe that person 100%. They will deliver exactly what I need on try one, not even try two, but the first try. You understand? So let's just go back. So there's a lot. There's so much. You understand? But we're not going to bother about the complexity. But I just want you guys to see examples of files of like fully formed design systems that have almost everything. But now, when I say design system, it just means a library of all the different things that you need to do that design. Library of every single thing you have ever done in a design. You understand? It holds everything together, but in a structured way that is labeled and arranged. You understand? That is what a design system is. Meaning we are not deviating from the styles that we have in this design. Like in this library, you're not deviating from anything here. All our icons are all represented here. Every single icon is named, labeled, and arranged properly. And we've labeled everything accordingly. If we need 3D looking icons, colored ones for Halloween, birthdays, we have that library here. So it's a grand amount of work, but it's not something you do in one day. It takes time and you just build to it. That's pretty much what it is. So let's go back. How do we now create our own components? But first, how do we create buttons? Now, what I want to do is I want 5 people to give me their emails, and I want to invite 5 people into this file. I want to invite 5 people into this file. I need 5 eager people who are very excited and they want to do this. Put your emails into the, and I want you guys to come into this file to be able to edit with me. I'll do something, and then I'll watch the 5 of you do that same thing. But I want everybody else to also try. The reason why I'm not inviting everybody to it this time is because we are a lot, and I don't want somebody mistakenly deleting another person's work. I don't want advanced people to come in here. So I don't want like intermediate designers to come in here. I want junior to beginner level designers to give me their emails, and then I'll invite you guys to my file to then work with me for a few minutes. So let me check which emails do I have. Mr. Solomon, I want to invite you. Toby, I want to invite you at all, not you guys. So I'll invite gifts. So let's start with gifts, Control C. I'm not going to bring the masters, so I'm not going to do that. Let me go back in. You guys already know these things. So Lakers, definitely, Control C. And I'll give you this. And that's 2. Mr. Solomon. Marianne, yes. Let me get that. Control C. Minus the masters of product design that are here. So Peter is also here. I have now. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. And I need 1 more. Who was the last person? I think that was, okay, Peter, right? So let's go back. Okay, so I have, okay, so let me just take 1 more person. I'll just make it 6 people. So let me make the 6th person be Jessica as well. And that's good. So we are going to do this component thing together. Miss it, ask me questions, right? Let us go through it that way. And I'll invite you guys to edit my file. And you guys have been sent invites. Please check your email, click on the link from your email, and then let's get started. Now we are going to do some basic reusable things that we typically use in design. So we'll do buttons. But this time I'm not going to teach you buttons by using rectangle and triangle or using frame. No, we'll be using auto layout to do everything, right? So buttons, we'll do toggles. And then also we'll do input fields. And then also we are also going to do drop downs. These are the 4 main things that we're going to do. We'll cover in this class. But we'll use the auto layout methodology. And I will explain auto layout in a bit to you guys. So are you guys in my file now? Follow me. Wait first, you guys, I want you guys to do this. If you want to follow somebody, because there's a page where I am right now, and I want you guys to find me. You will see on the top right corner here, you will see my picture. Just click on that picture. You'll see follow or something. But again, I can say spotlight me, and then you guys can actually follow. So you see like a request to follow somebody. Click on that request, and then you guys will come on this page with me. And then I can zoom in. You see, as I'm zooming in, your screen too will be zooming in because you are following me.
Yes.
You understand? So that is what will be happening. Figma is such an amazing tool. So now we are here. Okay, you guys can go back to the Google Meets and then watch what I'm doing from Google Meets. So we'll start with buttons. Can anybody tell me what and what can we combine together to create buttons? Right, guys? What and what do you combine in Figma to make a button?
A shape and a text.
What shape?
A rectangle.
Okay, rectangle and a text. Amazing. So let me show you an example of that. I'll draw a rectangle. And also I'll type a text. And I'll just say, get started. Now this text is too big, obviously. So I'll take it down a notch. Now, whenever you want to design anything, whenever you want to create components for your design, you should always know what is the context of what I am designing. Am I designing a mobile app or am I designing a website? So you guys, can anybody suggest, should we design for a mobile app or for a website? Anybody? Suggestions?
Website.
Web. Okay, so let's go web. So I'll go frame. You guys already know how to pick a frame for web or mobile. I'll go frame and then I'll just pick desktop. Now I have a desktop frame here. So this is the size that I should be looking at, meaning anything I'm designing outside should fit inside this size, but in a reasonable way that makes sense. So I want to make sure that we can see this white against that bright background. So I'll darken the background a little. So I'll just take this down a notch. And now we can see the desktop frame. We can see all of our text very well as well. So that's good. So if I want to design a button, let me just drag this guy and bring it inside of my frame. And also bring this get started inside of here. Now, I have the two of them here together. Now, one of the things that back in the days we used to do was we have rectangle, we have this. We select the two of them together, just click and highlight. So now you see this get started. I have highlighted get started and the rectangle. Back in the days, what we would have done is we would have right-clicked and we'll just say group selection. So once we group them, it will say new group here on the side. And then you see an arrow. If I click on that arrow, it will expand and tell us that inside that group, there's a rectangle and a get started. So I want you guys to create a rectangle. First, create a frame that you like, whether it's mobile or web. Choose your own. Create a rectangle. Put a text on top of it and then group them together. That's the first method. I'll show you guys a second method, which is framing it instead of grouping it. And I'll tell you why framing it is not very good. And then the third main one is now the auto layout method, which is the most optimized version. So you guys go and do your thing. Don't do it inside of my own. Go create your own frame, right? Remember to go and then create yours. Remember, you just drop a frame there. You pick a frame from the list. Select the hashtag tool. You guys have forgotten. I can see you guys are wondering how to do it. You've forgotten. What's it back, babe? So the thing is, click on the hashtag icon. On the left side of your screen, you will see phone, tablet, desktop. If it's desktop, just pick desktop. If it's MacBook you want to do, pick MacBook. If it's phone, pick phone. In order to group things, you can actually do Control G. Control G will group it for you. And for you to know that something is grouped, you can look at it from this side here, right? From the layers panel. You see group 1 or group 2 or group 3. And you can rename it if you want to. You can just double click on that group 1, just say button, B-U-T-T-O-N. And now I've renamed my own to button. So I want you guys to also rename yours to button. It's very good for you to learn the practice of naming your layers. Name your layers, you understand? So learn to name your layers. So just on the layers panel, just double click. It will become blue somehow. You just type and just say button, you understand? Now, apart from this particular method, and I don't want to waste too much time because we are taking too much time to do very simple things. I want to create another rectangle, but then I want to type text inside. And I'll say start. And now I want to arrange this guy to the center of that button. So whenever you get this red line showing like a T, it's telling you that it is aligned to what is in its background directly. Now, the second method is just to highlight this two, the same way we did that grouping thing. Anyway, so you highlight, once you highlight this, next thing you can just do is you can right click and just say frame the selection. Framing selection is a much better way than grouping it. But framing selection is not that great as well. because it has some disadvantages. So for something like this one, I can resize it and you see the background is resizing. The only problem is the text will be doing anyhow. Understand? That is the disadvantage of groups. Now, with frame, the problem I have with frame is if I stretch it, my background will not resize, but my text would not get messed up either. You understand? But nothing spectacular is really happening. So that's like the disadvantage of using group and frames. Now, if I wanted things to resize accordingly, what I'm going to do is this. And there's something called constraints. I'll not do that today. Let's forget about constraints for today. Let's just keep it very simple. So you see that frames, things will not adjust without that extra thing I was about to talk about, but I'll not talk about today. And this one, it will resize, but it will mess things up inside. Understand? So that's the disadvantage of both. But then we now have a third method, which doesn't require us to actually draw a rectangle at all. All we just have to say is we want to have a button that says send money, right? Now, what we do is obviously these are very, very big size. So this is not like standard size of text. Typically, text in buttons are about 16 pixels, 18 pixels, maximum 20 pixels. 20 size, usually. That's typically like the most maximum you probably want to go. But again, a lot of people break the rules and it's allowed. Now, I'll just have this button, right? This text. Now, in order for me to turn this into a full auto layout button, all I can do is I'll just press Shift A on that text. Now, something has happened. This is one of the most important things. Now, I just selected the text and I pressed Shift A. Something has happened because on the layers panel, it is calling itself frame 2, but the icon is not the hashtag. The icon is now auto layout. That is what that icon means. Any icon you see like this is saying auto layout, and then something has happened on the right side. If you see auto layout, there's now an auto layout settings section. This width is saying this is the width of this particular selection. This H is the height of this particular selection, right? Now, you are seeing arrow pointing down, left, or wrap. This is saying any other things that are arranged inside this selection will automatically be arranged side by side or top to bottom. So if I say I want it to be top to bottom, because I have nothing else inside, I only have that text inside of this box. And it's an invisible box. Just hold on. It's an invisible box. Nothing will happen with that because nothing is supposed to happen when there's only one thing inside. But the moment I select that send money text again, and you'll be seeing what you're selecting from the layers panel. If I press Ctrl D, automatically you see beside it, another send money has shown up. And then I'll just use this icon. Like, let me just use this icon for now. Now, send money and these two, there are two separate texts. These are two things. Now, this left and right, this arrow pointing to the right is saying things inside here will be oriented left to right arrangements. If I change it to say point downwards, it will say things should be arranged top to bottom. It is automatic. It automatically adjusts itself. So now we have send money and then this one down here. So we are calling it auto layout because all you just have to just do is adjust things here. Now, let's go back to the default. Wrap, we'll talk about wrap later. Wrap is when you have too many things, but you want to restrict the width. So any new things will just go automatically to the bottom if it's supposed to exceed the width of this box. So I want you guys to try this. Create a text to make sure that text is not above size 18 or size 20, right? Now, after that, select that text and press Shift A to add an auto layout to it. Once you add an auto layout to it, I want you to now play around with the auto layout settings here. Now, leave the W and the H. It will typically be hog. Hog means this box would automatically adjust to the amount of content inside of it. That is what the hog means. So you're just hogging the width, hogging the height, according to what is inside. You understand? But we'll talk about that later. You understand? We'll talk about that a little bit later. So what I want you guys to do, please, Abdulatif, don't do that. This is not what I'm expecting you guys to do. Go create your own box. Now, as I've said, create text, add an auto layout to it, and then try to add multiple things inside of there. You understand? Let's move on to the next thing right now. With that auto layout that I have created here, auto layout is actually a frame, but it is an auto frame, automatic frame. So you see that at first I showed you guys the group method. Now, group method is outdated. You should not be using the group method anymore. The frame method or the auto layout method are the best really to use. But you only use the frame method when you understand something called constraints, which I'll teach you guys later, which is not for today. But for this auto layout one, now that I've done this button, now this already is a button. All I just need to just do is, the only problem is it doesn't have a background color yet. So I can just come here and add a few color to it, and I'll just change that color. I can say it's going to be a orange color. Now you would see it is still that. I just added a background feel to it. You understand? I could come here, right, as it is, and this same frame, this same auto layout frame, as it's selected, I can curve the edge of it. So when you see appearance, the curve, you can just increase the curve. A frame cannot be done like how we do rectangles, where we be clicking one dot and then we drag it. No. With frames, the way you curve a frame is by coming to the appearance. Beside the opacity, you'll see something called corner radius. This corner radius is now where you can now say, okay, I want it to be size 24. And then it's curved totally. You understand? So I want you guys to go to your auto layout, give it a background, and then curve the edge of your auto layout button. Quickly, let's quickly do that. There's now something we call nested auto layout, which we'll talk about mainly tomorrow. But first, we're talking about auto layouts in regards to how it now becomes us building multiple different styles of the same thing. You see it in a bit. All that button stuff that you're seeing that looks like a lot on that design system I'll show you about Pay For Me. You see how fast and how easy it is for you to actually start creating those things. But create it only when you need it. You understand? Not just for creation's sake. You get? So, who has done the background thing? If you have done it, just say background, just say BG done. The BG is the same as background. So back, then ground. Now, I'm sure you guys have already done it, so I don't have to even go and check. Now, the next thing is we now have our auto layout. With this auto layout, you can see that buttons typically should have very good spacing from the sides and the top. Now, for me, I like the spacing at the top is fine, but things are too close to the edge here. So how do I do that? Now, in this auto layout settings here, you will notice something. There's like a map here that allows you to arrange things. So you're aligning things top left, top right, but it will not take yet because everything here is set to org. Let's first focus on these numbers that we have here. Now, what this 8 means, my own will say 8 because I've set my own preferences to be multiples of 8. And let me show you guys how to set your own preferences as well. Because I use the standard 8 multiples of 8 to distance things and arrange things. I went into my file and then I went into preferences. And then you see something called nudge amount. Nudge amount. This nudge amount is now where the small nudge, meaning when I press up, down, left, or right, it will move my item by only 1 pixel at a time. For big nudge means if I shift and press left, it's a big jump. I want it to jump 8. By default, your own will be 10, right? That's the default that Figma comes with. So you can just erase and just say 8 and just press enter and it has changed already. So yours will come by default with 10, but you can then go into the Figma icon here, go to preferences, you will see nudge amount, it's the last item, and just set your big nudge to 8. Leave small nudge as 1, except maybe you have specific use where you don't want to be using 1. That's fine. But big nudge should be 8. You understand? At least if you want to be using industry standard spacing, you understand? Beyond that, let us now focus on the numbers. I'm seeing 8. Some of you guys, your own will probably be 10, 10, 10, and that's fine. What this one here means, to explain itself, when you put your mouse on it, it will tell you what it means. Horizontal gap between objects. It means the space between 2 things that are inside that button. You understand? So if I increase this 8 by a big nudge of 8, you can see the distance has increased to 16. Now, this is accurate to the tiniest, should I say pixel, that is 16 accurately, distance between 2 things. If I hold shift again and increase it and do more, you can see that the size of the button is now adjusting automatically. But what now makes this adjust automatically is because the width is hug. So the width hugs up according to all these settings. But the moment I change this to a fixed width, it will not do that anymore. So watch. See, it will scatter everything. You understand? So let's go back. Let's go all the way back first. So let's just put it back as hug. Understand? For now. Later, I will show you guys some of those things that can break your auto layout. So this is just managing the distance between things inside of a button. And let me create a copy of this button. I could actually have another set of things inside as well. The more I create things, the longer this is getting. But I can decide and say, I don't want this to be a button. Maybe a list. If I want it to be a list, I'll just say top to bottom. And then you see everything will be arranged because I'm changing that orientation from left to right to top to bottom. And then you see top to bottom, I can make a list of things. You understand? I could do so many things with this one simple auto layout thing that we are doing, right? But let us keep this on the side first. And that same thing is talking, that same 48 is the distance between all of these things. So no matter whether it's left or right or top to bottom, this is about gap of every object inside that auto layout. So the next thing here is now there's something called padding. Padding means the space of something from the edge. Padding is the space of anything from the edge of the screen or the edge of the boundary. That's what padding is. So looking here, watch. This S has a space of 8 exactly from the left side and a space of 8 from the right side. Now, how do I know that? This icon is telling me that there's line. There are 2 lines and then there's a box in the middle. That is saying left and right. Understand? If you have 2 lines left and right to each other like this, it's telling you left, right, meaning this 8 is controlling both the left and the right. But you see the lines, this one is top to bottom. This is controlling the padding from top and bottom. But if I wanted to have different numbers for different sides, I'll just click here to have individual padding. Now we have left separate. I can set right separate. I can set top separate. I can set bottom separate. So let me now zoom out. Let me just go back. I like that union method. So I'll just say I want to increase this to have 32 from the side. And I want to reduce that 48 to 16. And from the top and bottom, I just want to have 16. Now, this is a very good button because there's enough white space. And I can understand exactly what the button says. Because it sends money. There's a white room to breathe and it's easier to read for the eyes. You understand? That is the advantage of having good padding. But there's also such a thing as too much padding. It might look weird. You understand? So it depends on you, the designer, and who is judging your design, right? You can always use that to set your padding to the preference of your team or your own particular preference. Understand? So I want everybody to do that, right? Set padding, set margin, set spacing in between. And then let's see what you come up with quickly. Let's go ahead and do that. I like this. I think who worked on this get started now. Great. These are 3 pieces of text and then they are all arranged. You can do them top to bottom arrangement. You can try that, make a copy and then try it. It's very nice. And then you can do all sorts of things. Try padding, spacing in between to make it a better button. See, more padding just means more spacing. Understand? And then it will be easier to breathe. It will look even better with more space around it. You understand? And even looks more like a better button for that. How many people are done with that? BG done. What about padding? How many people have done padding? Just say pad done, pad done. That'll be fun. Auto layouts are amazing. Very, very amazing. Tomorrow, you guys really see the extent of what auto layouts are. But I'm trying to get into the building block of components, and you guys will see how it is easy to build a component and then to start having variants of a component. Variants just means different formats of one particular thing. You understand? That's just what it is. So just the variant of that one component. So amazing. I'm happy you guys are getting it. So let me now come inside here of which today is just a taster for auto layout. The main thing we want to do here is we want to have components. Just select that one thing, and you will see here at the top. Just scroll this sidebar, scroll all the way to the top, and you will see under this design prototype, you will see here, there's an icon called Create Component. This one, Create Component. Or you can say Control-Alt-K. But me, I don't use that shortcut. I prefer to just come and click it here. There are too many shortcuts in Figma, so I don't like to confuse myself. So select that and you just see. Once you click that Create Component, the line around your shape now becomes purple. That purple is saying that you have turned it into a main component. And look at here on the layers panel too. I want you guys to learn how to pay attention to the layers panel as to what is selected here and what it means on the side. When you see this component diamond shape, just know that that is a component. And you see, it will always be purple anywhere. It is going to be purple colored. So the line around it will be purple. That's when you have created a component. Now that I've created this component, I can actually come to this assets area and you see something called created in this file. This is the component. The component is now one component I've created in this entire file. So if I need components inside of this, I'll just drag it from here and I'll use it as is. And watch something that will happen with my component. If I change the color of this place, it will change over there as well. Anywhere else I've made that component, it will change everywhere. So let me put a copy everywhere. Let me just put a copy in multiple places. I'll just watch what will happen. If I come here and I say, okay, let me go back to file to see the layers. And I say, I want to change this yellow. I want it instead to be a blue, like a greenish bluish type color. If I zoom out, all the other variants are now blue because the main component itself is what controls what happens to everything. So it's so easy to change color of every single button in your entire design just by changing one. That is the advantage of components. You can make one change and change it in over 100, 200, 300 different pages. That is the advantage of having components. So I want you guys to try this. Make that your button. Now make it a component by selecting the button. And you will see over here, there's that diamond type thing that says create component. If you can't see it, just make sure you scroll all the way up on the right side, scroll all the way up. You will see it. Click that create component and then make multiple copies of it. Just make multiple copies of that particular button. And then try to change the color, change the font, change the spacing. You will see it will be adjusting everywhere else. So I want you guys to do that quickly. Go ahead. But remember, the one that you will change, the main one that you did, if you change this one, you are making this one different from the rest of it. I think that's important for me to say as well. So the main component, this is the main component. Every other one is a copy of the main. So whenever you change the main, it will change everywhere else. But I can pick this one and say for this one, I want to change it to just be green. It will not change everywhere else. That will be the only one that will change. For now, I want you guys to get the first part. Make multiple copies of your button, right? And then try to change the main component. And let's go ahead. Then we'll now go ahead and then do variant components. Okay, so let's see you change the color gifts. I'm watching you change your own. Let's see. What does that look like? Try to change it. Check your main. Remember, your main is what you're going to change. You are changing a copy. No, I don't think that's a copy. Let me even see. Continue, yeah, continue. I'm watching you. Don't worry. Don't be nervous. Just do your thing. You see? So now, let me show you guys how to know which one is the main and which one is the copy. It's not about color. It's not about the color. It's about the field background. I know what you guys meant, but you cannot just say it has color. As a designer, you'll be able to communicate. It has a background color. You understand? Not that it has color. Please, I beg. Secondary buttons, they have a stroke around them, and then the background blends into whatever the background of the main background is. You understand? So what I want to do now is, this is my primary. What I'm going to now do here is, I will come, when I select that free, you see here, next to it, there are some settings there. But what I would need is to create a variant. Is this diamond with the plus inside. Once I click that, it has created the second version for me. Now this second version, I will edit this second version to become a secondary button. So all I'll just do is, since my main background is white, the secondary button's background will also just be white. But This is not a secondary button. Can anybody tell what type of button is this? This one. That's a tertiary button.
Tertiary.
Because it's like it looks like a text link. You understand, right? So this is a tertiary button. So now I'll select this and then I'll just come to the stroke. I just had stroke. Because a secondary button can actually have a blue stroke and a blue text. Right? So when you say it has color, it doesn't apply. You understand? It can have color, but it is stroked. You understand? So it's not about color, it's about the background color. So this is a secondary button. You understand? Right? So please note that carefully. It could be colored strokes and colored text. But please note, the color of the stroke and the color of the text should be the same thing when you are doing secondary buttons. So if your button stroke is red, the button and the other things inside as well should be red. It needs to blend, they need to match. Now, this is the second variant. Now, one of the things you will notice here now is when you select any of them, there's a plus that is hanging at the bottom of it. You can actually add variants freely now. So if I want to create a tertiary version, I just click on plus again. And then I have this. Now to make it tertiary, I'll just take away the stroke. And now I have a tertiary. I can even go a little bit further. I can select this and then just give it an underline. In the settings, I'll just go to the text underline and then just give it an underline. And to even make it more, I can actually give it a color like that blue that we typically see. Just say, oh, maybe it's that blue color. Can we use our own blue, but maybe deepen it a bit. Now we have a tertiary button. Any questions so far? So, like play, we've created 3. In how many minutes? Less than 2 minutes, we've created 2 different variants of that same one. But the main thing is, for you to know which one is which, you should always select each one and name them in the component properties. So I'll select this one. I'll come here to say default. I'll just select that default and type in primary. I'll select the second one to say variant 2. I'll just rename it. I'll say secondary. For the third one, I'll say tertiary. And I have a component system. And if I need these guys, I'll just go back to assets. Any page I am on, I can just be maybe on this page here now. I'll just see, check. I'll just click on that. I just drag it in, diagram, and I have it. If I want to change this from set to secondary, you see this property one, I'll just click the drop down. I'll just say tertiary. Click tertiary, and it has changed. If I want it to be secondary, and I can easily just switch between button styles. Easy. You understand? This is the advantage of having component variants. You can have everything in one, and depending on the button that you need in that particular area, you just switch from this drop down. You just change the style rather than looking for it all over the place to make a copy of it. You understand? So I want you guys to do that. Take your button, make a first variant. Remember, to make a variant, you select the button. You see a plus around here, a diamond with a plus inside. Click on that plus. It will give you a second version. If you want to do a third, you could just click on the plus under any of your buttons and it will just add a new one for you. Style them exactly as is. Primary with a background color. Secondary with no background color or a blending background color, but a stroke around it. And the text inside must be the same color. Then tertiary is no stroke, no background, just text with an underline. And that's the end. The good thing about this is that as I have this part now here that is already the secondary button, right? Without me having to change anything, I just change the type or the state here. I can just come here and my button will adjust to the padding. I can just say submit. You see, the size changed accordingly. I can say go and it becomes smaller. I can say something longer and say add new element. And then it's a longer button. It's adjusting because of the auto layout. That is the beauty of auto layouts in collaboration with components. And the good thing again is I can now take this and say I want it to be a tertiary one. If I change it, my text will not change back. My text that I've put inside will automatically be inside by the time I change the state. So everything around it is what is changing, but the main text I've put inside is now the new part of that particular variant. So that's kind of like the beauty of it. So now that's the beauty of it. Now imagine everything I just showed you guys in combination with color and typography that we created last time. So watch. I could just select this guy. Remember, I had created color styles. I'll just come to these 4 dots. I'll just pick from those colors that I already have standard. For this one that is black, I could just come in and then find a darker green. I'm blending and monochrome with the button now. For this other one too, I'll come here to the selection colors. I can click on the 4 dots. The 4 dots will always load your brand styles. And I could just say, oh, I want it to be purple. Bagam, the end. The next one, this one now, I want this to be what color? Maybe like a brownish yellow or like yellow. See, the end. Now I have combined, now my colors that I created is now attached to my, what is it called? To my component. And that's what was done here, but on a grander style, you understand? Or just a repeated thing that took an entire month to this entire thing. Typically, it should take longer, but we're very dedicated to this. And it was 2 people that was working on it. And luckily for us, all these things were created before. So just to combine them together. The typography one too is there. If I select this now, I'll just go inside. Where typography is, I can just select and say, oh, okay, I want to use one of the font sizes. But remember, we did not really create the font sizes standardly. So let's just say this is size 18. Now, there's something you can do with typography. I like this font size 18. I want to add it to my text styles. All I'll just do is see text style, see plus. I just click on that plus, and then I'll just name it button text. And I just create the style, and that's the end. Now I have a button style text that is standard. So now I've created a new one from already existing design. That is another way to add new styles into your style components, right? Like your local styles. So you see, in here, button text has now been added. You get? That's like the beauty of it. There's so many ways to do one thing. You can do it in different. Also, let me show you another style. I could actually have designed, and let me show you what we did. I could actually have designed and said, log in now. I want to give it a color and all that. So let me just pick colors from here. Let me pick like one of the faint purples. Let me round the edge a little bit. Let me give you very good padding. You guys by now should know how to do these things that I'm doing. I'm just doing it a little bit faster. So let's say I have this button now. And let's say I now created the other button again, but for my secondary. And maybe this second button has like this white background. So I'll just break that. I'll just give it a white background. And then I'll give it a stroke. Or maybe the stroke is like maybe color, maybe a dark purple, who knows, wherever it is that they use. I just change that black as well to that dark purple, right? Now, these are just standard auto layouts that they are not connected in any way. I could decide and say, now that since I could have these two, I want them to now be componentized. I'll just highlight the 2 of them together. I'll scroll up, I'll come to this component, but I'll not click on component. There's a drop down beside it. I'll click on that. You now see create component set. Component set means it will recognize the 2 of them as 2 variants of the same set. I'll just click on that, create component set. Now I have a primary and secondary. Just go inside. I'll rename this primary and I'll rename this secondary. Design system needs to be faster because we had different versions of things already. We just have to bring them together and just combine them and just name them properly. So there are so many ways of doing the same thing. You understand? That's what I always tell people. So many ways. You can do it backwards, you can do it forwards, you can do it sideways. Every designer has their own method. And it just depends on the situation or the context of how you are working correctly. And that's all. Components done, auto layout done. Tomorrow, you can put components inside of another component. But first, you should actually understand the top to bottom hierarchy. When you have a page like this, how should you structure the auto layout? That's what you will learn tomorrow. So that you can flexibly change it to any style you want. You understand? You can slide new things inside lists without having to drag and drop things all over the place.